Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Tekpon podcast. Today we are live from Ignite, Odense, here in Denmark. Our guest is Malte, the founder and CEO at Hakio. I'm super excited to run this session. I will let you present yourself first, tell us a bit about Hakio, and start this amazing conversation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Christian, and thanks for inviting me. I'm honored. But yeah, my name is Malte. I'm founder and CEO of Hakio. And very quickly about Hakio, we are a software company, software as a service.
Yep.
And we help the fashion industry, and more specifically fashion brands, be a little bit better at utilizing their money in their buying. So we take our statistics, our machine learning, and our deep learning models, and build out really good forecasts. And then we help translate those forecasts to how much should they buy for each collection, so that they have the most amount of product on the shelf that they can sell, and the least amount of product that goes into to the waste bin after a collection.
Right. So you solve a lot of problems, but what would you say is the biggest one that you solve?
So I think the biggest one kind of depends whether you're looking from a sort of customer perspective or if you're looking from a sort of an environmental perspective. But from a customer perspective, it's definitely the availability. So a lot of time you see these brands, and especially the brands that are doing really well, they have a lot of unmet potential in the market that they're not right now capitalizing on. So we can come in and help them address that with better availability. Also sort of finding out where are the blind spots for them. But then of course it's also the working capital side, and that can be much more devastating because one part of it is an upside, and the other part of it is of course the working capital, which if you don't manage that properly can kill you.
Yes, right. Who would you say is the ideal customer for you?
So our ideal customer is definitely fashion brands, own brand houses. It can be multi-brand companies as well, but it is also companies at a certain size, because of course we are not at a place where we can do it for free. So when the sort of investment that you put into Hakio, in order for you to get a return that we find sufficient enough for us to want to work with you, you have to be at a certain size.
Right. Is it a minimum revenue, number of employees, products, sales?
So it is a lot of things. We proxy it from our side by revenue. So we go out when we look for brands to contact, and we go out and say that we want them to have at least 5 million a year in revenue, but preferably even 10 million and up euros. And that is of course a proxy for a lot of sort of underlying complexity, number of SKUs, number of warehouses, number of collections, and a lot of other things.
Let's dive into the story of the company. What was the idea behind it? You are the founder.
Yes.
So please dive into the story.
Yeah, sure thing. So just the problem and also sort of the space is of course not new. Every single company that has inventory on the shelf are kind of faced with this problem. So a lot of companies has this problem, and that also means that there are a lot of solutions out there in the market. But a place that is, in my opinion, and also something that's been validated afterwards, was very sort of obviously lacking a solution, was the fashion industry. Because the fashion industry have some very clear dynamics that are different from many other industries. You have very short selling seasons, but very complex products with long lead times.
Yes.
So you wanna do something very different than when you sell bolts and nuts and when you sell canned tomatoes. So yeah, I started the company 3 years ago. It was together with my co-founder Simon, who is a guy that I've worked with together before, We kind of started a little bit more broad, but sort of by lucky accident found out that we're quite good in the fashion space. We got a fashion customer early on and found out we did some really good things here. So we really decided to dive into that.
So did you start with fashion in mind, or was it any e-commerce or brand selling?
So fashion, but also more widely. And I think for me, and I think in general, when you start a company, you're always sort of being piped full with, you have to focus, choose an industry. And we decided to start by choosing consumer brands, and we found out that was not nearly narrow enough. So we went to fashion, found that was not even narrow enough, went to a fashion own brand company. So now we're very specifically building for that, and we're also seeing that pay off in the market.
And did you start it with AI and machine learning from the beginning? So was it directly that you thought that using AI we can see the best-selling products, what to acquire, what stocks to prepare, or was it later in the company?
Yeah, very much with AI in mind. So I have a background. I studied physics and nanotechnology at the university, Technical University of Denmark. So I have a deep love for math, and I have a deep sort of belief in that you can do a whole lot more than what I typically see being done with the data you have available. For instance, sort of the most typical algorithm I saw being used in the industry was a Holt-Winters, a most advanced algorithm was a Holt-Winters model, and that is, I think, developed in the 1960s. So a lot of things has happened since then. A lot of data is available that weren't back then. But our sort of main goal here was to sort of bridge some of the leading research around machine learning and forecasting into the industry, because it was very gut feeling driven, and I think there's a huge potential there.
So you didn't have any experience necessarily in the fashion industry, but rather in the data and the research and machine learning, and you saw an opportunity here, right?
Yeah, very, very true. And with the lack of experience in the fashion industry also allowed me to ask a lot of stupid questions, and I still do to this day. And I think sometimes the answers to those stupid questions become because that's how we've always done it. And that's where you actually have an opening to go in and say, okay, but is that the most optimal way? Can we do it differently? And if you're curious like that, I think you have a huge window of opportunities that you can explore.
Yes. And today, how big is the team overall?
So the team, we're 23 people today, very, very intelligent, very highly motivated people. I'm lucky to not be the smartest person in the room when I walk in.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you raise any funding?
Yes, we did. Raised 2 rounds so far. So we started where we raised a pre-seed round. It was roughly 200,000 euros.
Okay.
That we raised, and then a couple of 100,000 more in loan. And most recently we raised a seed round, so we managed to spend those initial money quite well and show that there was a potential, and we could actually have the right team to explore that potential.
Yeah.
Then we raised a seed round most recently, which was a 3.5 million euro.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you think you are at the product market fit level, or you still need to?
I think that's a very good question. The product market fit, that's always, the
Ideal.
That's the ideal, right? And that's it's sort of an elusive thing. But we are definitely at a place where we have sort of problem solution fit, and we definitely see in the market that the product that we come with is something that is being very well received, and it's something that customers want to pay for. We are also at a point where we have our first customer saying, yeah, we have everything we need from you guys. We're really happy. And the most magical thing, and I think that's where I'm kind of feeling like now we're starting to get product market fit, that just happened, is that we had a user of our system, a user of our tool, switch company, and the first thing she did in the new role was go to management and say, we need Hakio. So I'm very, very proud of that, and that
Amazing.
to me kind of indicates we're very close to product market fit if we're not there already. I have a high standard.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
And right now you are global. You sell global to global fashion brands, but did you start locally here in the Nordics, or did you go directly global, and why?
I think any company that comes out of Denmark needs to think globally from the beginning, especially if you have high ambitions. And because Denmark is just so small that you sort of cannot stay within the confines of our borders. But starting close to you is very often a really good idea. I think for us, sitting with our customers, understanding their problems, kind of almost sitting next to them and looking at their computer while they're going on with their usual process, and also when they're using our tool.
Yes.
That is a very, very valuable process for us to build out our product. But these brands typically sell in global markets, so therefore sort of we intrinsically became global from the beginning, and it was a very natural jump for us to go in and sell to companies that are not based out of Denmark but based out of other countries.
Right. And what would you advise other startups to begin with? Start locally, test it out, or go directly global? Of course, it depends on the business model.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, due to the same reasons I sort of experienced and just talked about here, I think starting local is a very, very good idea. I think it's also wise to think already in the initial setup where you want to go, and if you want to go outside of the borders, maybe you should think about not making your solution, or if it is a software you're doing, maybe don't build it in Danish to begin with, because it kind of limits a little bit of the potential.
Yes.
But starting local, yeah, I would definitely say start local. Start with as narrow a market as you can.
Did you see any revolution or big changes in AI since you started 3 years ago and now? Because, yeah, ChatGPT was recently on the market. Before that, nobody knew about AI. Now everybody is an AI expert, and everywhere you see, we do AI.
Yeah.
But you started the company with AI in mind even before
Yeah.
ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I love to hear your perspective on that.
I think, yeah, definitely we've seen some changes. I think in the market we also just see a much higher willingness, and in some of the bigger companies that we're working with, we all of a sudden see now that AI budgets are coming in. And for us, it's essentially wind in our sails. We do something very, very differently than the big LLMs and the big foundational models, and we're not sort of the language-based models. We don't do a lot of that, so it's very much sort of the data models that we're doing. But we are definitely feeling a lot of wind in our back from all of this that has happened. I mean, you mentioned ChatGPT yourself. That is, of course, something that has taken the market by storm.
Yeah, but your solution is not something that can be replicated with ChatGPT, just a chat for, so it's something super huge and hard to build.
Yes, very much so. And like some of our secret sauce, of course, is in our models. I think that is what we sort of come with the biggest promise around, that our models and our forecast will beat any models in the market. You can go out there and find really good forecasting models in other places, but we have tailored it completely down to the fashion industry. So you won't find anything that's better on that front for a fashion company. Right. But where we also see a lot of the value that we bring and a lot of the things that make it hard to copy is how we engage with customers. Because one thing is having a number that is a good number, right? But another thing is, how do you actually put that number into action? How do you make that number into a impactful decision for a company? That's where we're also really, really good at helping that company achieve success. That's a lot harder to copy.
I'm curious to know who is the decision maker in these companies. Is it someone that manages the inventory, or do you sell directly to the CEO? Who is the decision maker?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, and I think that is also something, because even before starting Hakio, I've worked in this space, and my founder has as well. So we kind of know this space quite well. We worked there both as consultant for many years, me as a management consultant for 3 years within this space, but my founder for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So collectively we've seen the space a lot, and we've seen the demand planning and demand forecasting move from a sort of more operational thing, where it sort of would be the supply chain manager, or at most as the COO making decisions about this, to, in almost every company that we see right now, we see that it's moved up to a top 3 to top 5 priority on the C-level. So we are luckily coming in and speaking very often with the CEO, with the CFO. He's managing the war chest, yes. And also, of course, with the CIO, because we're going to integrate quite deeply into a company's tech.
But you can sell the value directly, right? Because they can see on the paper, yes, you cut the cost by 40%, let's say 20%, doesn't matter. And nowadays that everyone wants to become more profitable and growth is harder to achieve, they want to cut the cost down, so your solution pays for it itself, right? So it's something easier to sell because you bring real value. I'm curious to know how you monetize. Do you monetize per number of transactions, or costs that you cut, or how does it work? Subscription, I guess it's a basic subscription, yeah. But are there any add-ons?
So we are monetizing it as a subscription, and I think there's very good value for a company to have us on the, like, we've seen some other solutions that is an on-prem and you pay one time and then we install it and then you sort of, we leave you alone. That's not how we do in Hakio. In Hakio, we are there with you, and we are there with you for the long run. And for me, that also means that I get to sit on the same side of the table with my customers.
Yes.
Meaning that if I don't deliver value to my customers, they throw me out. So I continuously have to deliver value. I think that's a very
Exactly.
good. A very good point for them to sort of can take some of the difficulties around making the decision off the table, because they can just leave if it doesn't make any value. And that's why we're also very, very deliberate about who we take in as customers, because we want customers we can actually provide value to. And we
Absolutely. Otherwise, they cancel the subscription and you face churn. But if you sell something on-prem, doesn't matter. You sell it one time and that's it.
yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
do you think on-prem is disappearing, is slowly going away, or there are still some companies that can make profits with this and not deliver that much value? Because with SaaS, you can monetize super fast and super good because you are paid recurringly, but also you have to provide value. Otherwise, companies churn. So it's both good and bad. It's always a debate, but SaaS is growing. You cannot deny this.
Yeah, completely true. And to be honest, I'm not going to try to be an expert on whether or not on-prem is disappearing or not. It's definitely not going to be a way forward for us. I'm not going to pretend to know if it's going to be a sustainable business solution for other companies. I see other companies doing it still. We're never going to move that way.
Okay, that's amazing. I'd love to hear your best piece of advice for a founder looking to raise their first money, the first round. I don't know about your experience. Did you have any network before? Probably it's the easiest way to go directly to network, friends, family. This is the usual advice. I'm not sure about your story. If you had any network or started from scratch directly.
Yeah, so I think the advice I would give is to do a lot of work before you go to the investors. My first round that I raised in Hakio was a round where I had it was a pre-seed round, as I said before, and I went out and spent a lot of time and energy to find potential customers. So of course there wasn't a product yet. It was to build the product. That's why I went out and raised money. But I went to a lot of potential customers and very detailed laid out what I was going to build, and asked them to validate and even sign. Would they buy this if I had this? And then they came back and said, yes, I would buy this if you have this. I can then go to investors and say, look here, I have some potential customers lined up.
Yes.
I also went out and found the right people to join me. So of course, both my co-founder, but also technical people that could then help me build it, and also having someone from the university that could actually bring this state-of-the-art knowledge into the company.
Yes.
So it kind of was a three-way thing. I spent a lot of time on customers, on people, and then at the investment later on. Also went out to different lending institutions and asked them that if I got external funding in, would you provide additional loans? And they said yes, and I could then come with all of this that just lined up. If you invest in this, I have a plan that's ready to go, people ready to execute, customers ready to pay.
Amazing. Great piece of advice. And now let's take it even deeper. How do you sell to these customers? How did you do it directly? Did you go directly to them, ask for feedback, knock on the door, right?
Yeah.
A lot of work, as you said.
So
trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I've done a lot of selling, and I've become a lot better at understanding what is sales. In the beginning, I thought sales was very much sort of a value from me to you, but I've become a lot more knowledgeable around the fact that selling is much more about asking the right questions, understanding the customer. We have sold to some companies where we shouldn't have sold to them because we actually couldn't deliver enough value. So really uncovering what are your problems, and specifically, of course, the problems in the space that you're addressing, but really deeply understanding what are those problems, who in the company does those problems affect, and how much do you value those problems. So if you can answer that for a company, it becomes easy to also come back to them and say, if I had this, or this would be my proposed solution as an expert in the field,
yes,
I would sort of recommend you address your problems like this. And if I were to do it, I could do it like this, and you would need to invest this much. But the value is already addressed, the problems are addressed.
So basically to sell like people feel dumb for not buying. It's directly logical that your solution makes sense and you're totally worth it.
You should be very convinced that you are totally worth
Yes.
what you are sort of charging for your service or your product.
Yes.
And if the customers then say no, then you have probably done a poor job of conveying that, or of sort of qualifying that you really understand their problems, because then there might be something else that you don't know about the organization, or maybe some power dynamics, like someone was not the right person to try to sell to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, this was crazy a few years ago when I wanted to get some advice on sales. And I thought you had to be the best speaker to convince people, to do all sort of tricks.
Yeah.
But all of the great salespeople told me, no, you should ask the right questions. You should be more of a listener.
Yes.
You should talk less and find the real problem of the customer and then deliver.
Completely
So
agree.
that was crazy for me and game changing. Now, I love to hear also your story. So how you started, let's say from high school or from school or from when you were little. What did you do before Hakio?
Yeah, so I think I've always been very science driven. I did math and physics in high school as well as my sort of main topics, and then of course moved on to university because I thought math and physics was very, very interesting.
Yes.
And kind of that's been I haven't had like a goal, I want to go there, I want to do this with my career. I've always kind of just been driven by what I think is interesting, by what I think is fun. And I moved on to university doing physics and nanotechnology, but found out that a lot of the people around me were a lot more interested in sitting and solving the equations by hand than I was, and also a lot better than I was.
Yeah.
So I found a shelf within supply chain management that fit me very, very well. So I did a master's degree that's much more in that direction within supply chain management, operational research, and this kind of stuff. And for me, that was a world where I could combine my love for math with some real life big problems, practical problems that could take me a little out of the basement and a little into talking with people.
That's amazing.
And doing university, I think in high school I haven't really been entrepreneurial like that, but doing university I really opened my eyes to like this is a path that I find very, very interesting, both of course sort of on the independent side, but I think also the prospect of building something, I think it's very, very satisfying for me.
So we have around 3 minutes left. I have 2 questions left for you. What would be your best piece of advice for someone in the university or just finishing high school looking to build their first company, their first business?
I think that's a really good question. I think I'm not going to answer it by coming with the advice, but I'm going to tell the story of the first business I started in university that failed quite miserably, and then maybe the listeners can take out the advice that they want from that. But it was a company, a building block company. So it was with a fellow of mine from the university who was studying construction engineering, and in his bachelor project he made like these interchangeable building blocks, and I thought this is a great idea, a huge sort of potential with design for disassembly and a lot of things that was in there, and we got into a startup accelerator program with this and everything. But we had very different ambitions about how we wanted to take it. So I think we were very misaligned, not knowing we were misaligned to be honest, but we just started out and did something, and we very quickly found out that he wanted to take it much more slow and wanted to be very protecting around that idea. I wanted to just get it out and get some money in and sort of see if we can build it, and if not, then fine. We still went to university, then we can just do the next thing. So for me it was very much sort of just jumping into it, exploring, and it failed, and then I took a lot of learnings from that.
And last question for you: what's your favorite SaaS that you use?
The favorite SaaS that I use?
Yes, or top 3, however you feel like.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit here, because this is my favorite SaaS that I always talk about when I when I have to talk to especially e-commerce companies about SaaS, and that would be Relevise. It is
Okay.
a tool that helps e-commerce companies make their journeys personal. So both on their e-com letters, but also the search on their site. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and the founder team is absolutely great. So that is definitely something that I think is very great. Then of course, for me personally, in my use, it is a lot of the like ChatGPT. You said yourself, use that a lot, both, and we use that a lot in our team. Also, a lot of the code assisting tools out there and stuff like this.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to add for today?
No, I'm just happy that I got the chance to sit down with you and share a little bit of my stories and to have some interest from you
Yes.
into the Hakio journey. Thank you very much for that.
Of course, thank you. I think we covered a lot, but we could have gone even 30 minutes more.
I think so
So
easily.
crazy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Awesome. That was it.